Okay, everybody ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's hope this all works. I hope you can hear me. This meeting of Monroe Township Board of Education is now in session. We'll all be rising for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We go to Mr. Gorski for a roll call.
Mrs. Arminio.
Here.
Mr. Chiarella. Here. Mrs. DeMeo.
Exactly. So we said.
Panowich.
Panowich.
No one's muting. No one's muting. I can literally hear Jeopardy in the background. Can we, anyone who is on this committee member, please mute your microphone?
Their virtual Board of Education meeting out.
Mute the public.
And this is how they're conducting classes.
To get.
Running this on your own, aren't you?
I knew.
Swimmingly.
What?
52. Oh my God. Yeah. That's a madhouse.
Anyone in the public, please keep your microphone muted.
You need the chicken. Oh my God. Oh.
Steve, I think you can see the names of the people who are making noise, so you may request them to mute.
Oh, okay. Mhm. Oh God. All right. That's okay.
Mike, want to continue with the roll?
All right, Mr. Ryback, I'm going to commence with a roll call once again. Mrs. Arminio.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you. Chiarella.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. DeMeo.
Here.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Here.
Okay.
Mr. Nikotinsky.
Here.
Mr. Pelori.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryback.
Here.
Mrs. Siegel.
Here. Yeah.
Mr. Tefano.
Here.
Mr. Rutsky.
Thanks.
Mr. Rutsky.
Red.
Yeah.
Red.
Mr. Rutsky.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Board President, you have a quorum present this evening.
Well,
Thank you.
In accordance with the rules,
Mike,
in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted March 13th, 2020 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Oh.
Thank you. Before we continue, I just want to make some statements.
Don't go out.
One, on the agenda, I moved up the public forum so it would follow presentation of the preliminary budget. Next thing, I just want to read something for everybody's knowledge. We are asking for your cooperation as we attempt to hold a virtual Board of Education meeting. If you could adhere to the following rules, it will be appreciated. Do not unmute yourself. You will be given an opportunity to be heard during the public forum. During the public forum, type your comments or questions in the chat window and it will be acknowledged. To access the chat window, click the message bubble, select the drop-down button and choose Reggie Washington. Failure to abide by these rules force us to lock you out of the meeting.
Okay.
I make a motion that the Board of Education suspend the operation of bylaws 0164, bylaws 0167.
That's what she said. And
One.
Board President, I'm sorry, but there's one individual who is making quite a bit of noise with the first name Boris
Yeah.
Feldek.
Let's see
If they can mute their phone, that would be appreciated.
could the members of the public please put their microphones on mute? Thank you. I think it was excellent. All right. I make a motion that the Board of Education suspend the operation of bylaw 0164 and bylaw 0167. 2, 1, permit the board to conduct only one public forum at this evening's public meeting. 2, limit public forum to no more than 10 minutes in duration. And 3, limit the statements made by each member of the public to no more than 1.5 minutes in duration. Can I have a second?
Second.
Was that Mrs. Kolpanowicz?
Was.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
This is Michelle Arminio. May I comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, the original intent of curtailing the public portion was because we would have people in the audience, and now that we're doing a virtual, I would think we should have at least 2 public portions, one for the public budget hearing, and the second afterwards or before, so people can talk about anything they want to. So I would ask that we stay as close to the Open Public Meetings Act as possible. I know there were some guidelines from the government, but the guidelines still said that we had to adhere to the law and the Open Public Meeting.
I'll respond to that. Number one, there was a recommendation by the mayor. I know that there'd be no meetings, or basically everyone be home by 8 o'clock. The other thing is, I'm very happy you guys are home and that the public are home. Public is home for safety's sake, and this is very difficult times. And I know we all understand that. But with me now, still have staff in this building. There's custodial staff, the technical staff, as well as the administration. And I care about all of them too. And I'd like to see them get home as soon as possible. So that's why I would love to have this passed, and this time keep this public session to one session and no more than 10 minutes.
Mr.
Ryback?
Yes, Mrs. Kalapalms.
Well, we're going to have 2, one for the budget and one for our regular public forum. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
Forums.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryback, would you like me to take a roll call, sir?
Yes. I was waiting to see if there's any other comments.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board members?
No.
No. Okay, let's take a roll call.
Roll call to suspend motion bylaw 01640167. Mrs. Kolpanowicz. Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
No.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
No.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
No.
Mr. Tefano.
No.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, that's 6 yeas, motion passes.
Okay. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. I'd like a motion to approve the Public Board of Education meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Board President, please ask the people moving and seconding the motions to name themselves.
Who moved it?
I think Ken did. Ken, you.
And I seconded it, Peter Tufano.
Peter. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion, questions? Not hearing anything. We could take a vote on that. All those in favor of approving the Board of Education meeting of January 22nd, 2020?
Aye.
Any noes? Abstentions?
Michelle, I abstain.
Any abstain?
Abstention by Mrs. Arminio, so noted.
Okay, any recusals? Okay. We can move on now. I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting of January 22nd, 2020.
So moved, Andy Pelori.
Thank you.
Second, Peter Tafano.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? In that case, I haven't heard anything, so is there a question? No? All right. We can then go to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Abstentions?
Michelle Arminio abstains.
So noted.
Any recusals? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you giving your names. We can move on now to the presentation and public hearing of the preliminary 2020-2021 school budget. Right after that presentation, I'll open it up for questions or comments from the board, and then open it up to the public for questions or comments only for the budget presentation. You want to start? Albert?
Okay. So thank you for gathering here with us this evening. So we do have our preliminary budget presentation for this evening. The PowerPoint presentation is available online for anyone who wants to review it. It's been there for since yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. And it begins with usual information such as the board members' names, the finance committee makeup, the vision, the mission, our district goals, our board goals. And then we go into some of our considerations that we need for the budget. So we have been spending a lot of time over the last several months since October, really looking at this budget. This was a very difficult budget for us to put together. One of the things that Mr. Gorski's talked about many times throughout this year is the district's excess surplus figure and how it's gone down from over $5 million in the 1920 budget to $3.2 million in the 2021 budget. The main reason for this decrease was labor contracts significantly above what was reasonably budgeted, special education costs that were above what was planned by the special education department, and the security vestibule projects above what was budgeted. As we've stated numerous times, the decrease began, we began this whole budget process $1.7 million in deficit. So starting in October, we start meeting with all of our administrators and start giving them information about what they're going to be looking at next year with regards to programs, textbooks, supplies, resources, curriculum. And then the principals create their budget. They start with a zero-based budget, which means they start from scratch. They look at what they need. They go into their closets. They take a look at what their supplies are, and they build their budget from there. We then take each school and department through a very stringent budget defense round. Those budget defense rounds, we actually go, this is Mr. Gorski, Laura Allen from the business office, Dr. Lehman, and myself, go item by item on their budgets and take a look at making sure that they are consistent across the schools and making sure that they meet our district and board goals. This year when we did it, we actually told all of the administrators that this is a year that you should only be including needs in your budget. There should not be any wants in the budget. After going through this process with all of our departments, Mr. Gorski then works with his team and they put the budget together. When he did that, we were $6.6 million in excess of our 2% cap. So we started looking at what can we do? How can we take care of things? We really took a look at capital improvement projects. So there are no capital improvement projects in this budget unless it has to do with safety for our student health and safety. We looked at all of the new staffing proposals that were made through the budget defense rounds, and we actually cut 13 positions from the new budget. These are new positions. These are not existing positions. These are new positions that were proposed. We also cut any newly proposed clubs or athletic offerings. Again, we did not cut anything that's already in existence. This was anything new. We looked at our technology budget and we took out many of our technology supplies and really looked at just what was needed. to make sure that we can run our district smoothly and make sure that we can handle all of our testing requirements for the state. After doing that, then we had cut all of our appropriations and we ended up being $3.4 million over budget. On the revenue side, we started looking at how can we increase the money that we're bringing into our district to help offset some of these costs. The Jamesburg tuition is above the contracted requirement, is increasing by $82,000. We increased fees for our technology fee, our Falcon Care and ECE fees, building use fees, and iPad fees. Those will be increasing for next year. We also looked that would bring in about another $500,000. Thankfully, our state aid also increased by about $1 million. Once we started doing that, now we're about $1.7 million in excess of our revenues. So I will turn it over to Mr. Gorski now, who can share the rest of our budget plan for you.
Thank you, Dr. Alvick. We ended up, after all those cuts that Dr. Alvick mentioned, $1.7 million over cap still. And this was eliminating $3.4 million of new appropriations that were warranted through our defense rounds from consideration. It was either going to the bone of this district by removing existing programs and structures to the tune of $1.7 million, which we haven't seen here in a long time, or look at other measures to make this gap disappear. Employee health insurance is a $26 million appropriation line item in our budget. And Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield is our private plan provider. They gave us an initial proposal of a 9.8% increase. Based on $26 million, that was more than our revenues in total. We negotiated with our broker down from 9.8 down to 8.4. And then when we got some competitive quotes, they went down to 6.5, where they dug in and said, take it or leave it. This is our final offer for you for this year based upon your loss ratios and claims. One of the competitive quotes we received was from somebody who has always been under Horizon's proposals and provides an equal or better service from all of our due diligence, and that is the provider of Aetna. Aetna gave us a 0% health insurance increase, which was a $1.7 million savings, got us to cap without it eliminating a single existing program or service from the district, and also is beneficial to staff because through mandatory deductions for health insurance, there will be no new increases for the cost of the insurance being passed on to our staff. So after much deliberation with the committees of the board and our administration, we have decided to make the change to Aetna starting July 1st. We also met with all of the union presidents, and we believe we have their buy-in and support through this process. So that brings us to a budget that is at cap. And Dr. Alvick, if you humor me, I'll just go through some of the highlights of the slides very quickly. The executive summary for the budget specifies meeting the needs of 259 projected additional students from the October 15th, 2019 report. Lease on the new temporary portable classroom trailer units at the high school as required for instruction and special education. Perform only capital outlay projects required for health and safety. Replace buses in accordance with the 15-year retirement schedule only. Replace contracted bus routes with new in-house fleet. Limited expansion of curriculum and staffing. Increased revenues through additional fees passed through to parents and community, and we're also looking at advertising. Budgeting to cap while using all of the bank caps. And I strongly encourage everybody to visit our website and take a look at the PowerPoint slides and exhibits A, B, and C, which are supplements for those slides. Dr. Alvick and Dr. Lehman put much time in highlighting our accomplishments here in the budget, which are vast and very impressive. But going through and just hitting on the highlights of the financial components, we are buying 6 54 passenger buses with cameras, 2 24 passenger vans with wheelchair lifts and cameras, 1 additional bus driver, 1 additional para, and these are all based on our retirement schedule. with the exception of the 2 vans with the wheelchair lifts. We're bringing those back because we had a horrific experience this year with a contracted bus route that had untrained staff on lifting children in wheelchairs into the van and other problems of not showing up. So we're bringing that in-house. That's a priority. Capital improvements at the media center at Oak Tree School is being converted and made into 2 additional classrooms at Oak Tree.
Oh, wait,
We are
Mr. Grizzly,
Yes.
can I just interrupt there? It's going to be 1 classroom in the media center at Oak Tree and 1 on the stage.
Okay, thank you. Paint and remediation at Barclay Brook School. Monroe Township Middle School Industrial Arts dust collection exhaust system and other health and safety requirements. Where does the money come from? The majority of our budget, which is 86%, comes from local taxes. You can see this from the blue pie chart in our slides. We received a little additional state aid this year of about $1 million, which was much appreciated. That helped to offset the excess surplus reduction of 1.7 million, but we're still in a deficit of 700,000, netting those 2. We're aggressively looking at some miscellaneous revenue items here, like increasing the before and after school care charges, technology charges, and also we're going to aggressively look at advertising where it makes sense on buses and grounds throughout the district. As I mentioned, we have decreasing excess surplus. In the 18-19 school year, we had $6 million of excess surplus. Last year for 19-20, it dropped to $5 million. For 2021, it dropped to $3.2 million. What's the significance of that? Excess surplus is our savings from not spending previous budgets to full. That carries over as a revenue source to future years. We've been saving less and less because of the growth demands of this district, labor agreements beyond what was in the budget, and other reasons that Dr. Alvick mentioned before. This is a problem. It is a financially unhealthy statistic, and I would like to see us get a little bit of additional revenues to help offset this. The general fund tax levy is going to cap and also using all of the remaining bank cap totaling $1.4 million. Our tax levy for the general fund is growing $3.5 million. Key facts on our state aid: there are 2 types of state aid, equalization aid and categorical aid. Monroe has never received any equalization aid, which is designed to support a district's adequacy budget. Because of our wealth and income levels, we are excluded from that benefit of equalization aid, which is the largest type of aid distributed. Categorical aid is like it sounds, based on specific categories that we are eligible for, such as special education, security, and we do receive all of our state aid from that category. State aid is 4.63% of our budget, which is tragically low, and we are continuing as a board and administration to address that. However, our general fund state aid did increase $1 million over last year, which is a 17% increase. But when you're starting off at such a low figure, that sounds much more impressive than it really is. Dr. Alvick went over the additional revenue sources quite well. And budgets are driven by enrollment. The spending that goes on through our budget is driven by enrollment. We are projecting 7,144 students. We're breaking the 7,000 number for the first time in the 2021 school year. That's an increase of 1,000 students over the past 7 years, which is a 16% increase. This is documented from our audited and state-confirmed ASSA report that counts every student as of October 15th and is really indisputable. Where does the money go? 53% goes on direct instruction. However, when you take a look at the benefits chart, which is to the left of direct instruction, most of the benefits are for teaching staff and those who provide services to students in the district. So a good 80% of our district appropriations are spent directly on students. Our administration is 2.79%. Our debt service is just under 8%. Athletics and co-curricular, 1.3%. Transportation, as we have brought much back in-house, and as we transport 98% of our students is 5.5% of the budget. When you look at the appropriations detail, which is letter C, which is posted on our website again, please look at the category totals and the decreases from last year's budget to this year. They are profoundly conservative. We are decreasing in many accounts, including administrative costs and other important categories compared to last year. Speaking of administrative costs, the state median for a K-12 3,500 plus student district like Monroe is $1,727 per pupil. The state average is $1,667 per pupil. Monroe is $1,463 per pupil, which is an extremely attractive bar chart if you would humor us and take a look at the PowerPoint slides. Also, the budgetary per pupil costs for Monroe are very attractive. The state average for a K-12 3,500 plus student district is $16,350 per pupil. The state median being $16,213 per pupil. Monroe is only $14,925 per pupil. That is because of constricted spending, limited revenues, and an ever-increasing enrollment base. This district works hard to save money through cost savings from shared services. I don't want to belabor this very important slide, but in food services, by applying to government commodities in lieu of purchasing them, we save $110,000. Technology saves over $200,000 with interlocal service agreements, E-rate program, and sharing the 911 Motorola radio system with the township. Dr. Alvick has always done a fantastic job sharing professional development costs with our receiving district. That saves $7,500 to Monroe. The district has an early childhood enrichment and Falcon Care program, which earns $600,000 of revenue every year, which is harvested and transferred by the board into the general fund for general purpose use. We have solar credits on Oak Tree School that bring in $30,000. Our use of building policy is $100,000. Cooperative purchasing saves $350,000. Recycling $15,000. Transportation jointures are important. Our transportation director, Kathy McDonald, solicits other districts who have shared routes with us to private schools so we can share the cost of the bus instead of each of us going it alone. That saves $300,000 a year. We have an interlocal service agreement with the fire department for them to use our diesel pumps, and it also allowed them to get rid of an above-ground diesel tank. And we have participation in insurance consortiums, such as the Eric North Safety Grant, where we get $43,500. Our workers' compensation policy through New Jersey School Board Insurance Group save $475,000 as opposed to if we got a private workers' comp insurance, and $250,000 of savings from other insurances. So now we're going to talk about taxes. What factors influence the tax rate? I have said this year after year. The most important variable in the tax rate calculation is ratables. This year, ratables increased 1.36% or $105 million. That's impressive, but last year it was greater. It was 1.97%, $150 million. And we'll show you how that comes into effect with the actual dollars in a little while. But that is the most important thing because the community ratable base, the way property taxes are distributed, are on the valuation of property. And the more new property owners that come online, the more the rate is shared amongst the population and everybody's individual rate goes down. As a board member has pointed out, there's a negative consequence to that because your fixed infrastructure can only absorb so much and you have to add on to schools like we've been trying to do. And I completely agree with that point. But from just speaking to the tax rate, it is beneficial when you have ratable growth that's been this strong. State aid is also very important in influencing the tax rate. Had I received this year the amount of state aid that South Brunswick has, just to make a comparison, I would have a tax decrease for the community. And certainly increased student enrollment affects appropriations. We also have slides here on average municipal property tax bills where Monroe falls right in the middle of all of the districts in the county. And Dr. Alvick, the ultimate consequence of this year's budget, which is at cap, using $1.4 million of bank cap, providing every need in the district, but certainly not every want, is a 2.6-cent tax increase, or an increase in dollars of $83.84 for a home assessed at $318,000. And I would like to thank everybody who contributed to this budget this year, especially Dr. Alvick and Dr. Lehman. It's been a pleasure working with you, and Laura Allen also has contributed immensely. Thank you. So, Dr. Alvick, if I may, I'd like to read a resolution at this time.
Yes. Go ahead.
It is recommended to the Monroe Township Board of Education that the 2020-21 tentative general fund budget be adopted in the amount of $124,959,075 and a tentative general fund local tax levy in the amount of $108,062,274 and a tentative special revenue fund in the amount of $1,228,254 and a tentative debt service budget in the amount of $10,706,738 and a tentative debt service local tax levy in the amount of $10,494,073, whereby the tentative 2021 budget totals $136,894,067. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has been notified of state aid amounts, and whereas such state aid amounts are for the 2021 categorical special education aid, $4,075,644. And for the 2021 categorical security aid, $103,764. And the 2021 categorical transportation aid, $2,753,019. And for the 2021 debt service aid, $212,665. And whereas the Monroe Township Board of Education has estimated a state aid amount pursuant to application, and for the 2021 estimated extraordinary aid, which reimburses the district for out-of-district tuition costs, is $350,674. And whereas policy 6471 in NJAC 6A 23A-7.3 provides that the Board of Education shall establish in the annual school budget a maximum expenditure amount that may be allotted for travel and expense reimbursement for the 2021 school year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Monroe Township Board of Education hereby establishes the school district travel maximum for the 2021 school year at the tentative sum of $158,422. And be it further resolved that the school business administrator shall track and record these costs to ensure that the maximum amount is not exceeded. And be it further resolved that, as recommended by the board's budget philosophy resolution, that the board transfer $600,000 of retained earnings from the proprietary Falcon Care ECE fund as a revenue source in the 2021 general fund budget. And be it further resolved that the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education authorize and approve withdrawal from the capital reserve account in the amount of $180,000 to fund 12 construction services, account 12-000-400-450 for the emergent renovation of Oak Tree Elementary School Media Center to create 2 additional classroom instructional rooms, which project is included in the district's long-range facilities plan and has been assigned an approved project number of 3290-060-20-1000, and also lead paint remediation at Barclay Brook Elementary School, for which an amendment to the district's long-range facility plan has been submitted and a project number has been applied for. And whereas due to the consistent student enrollment growth, facility needs, and other priorities set forth in the board's budget philosophy resolution, the board is budgeting to maximum spending authority, including the full remaining previous year's unused spending authority of $1,458,098. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the acting superintendent of schools, business administrator, board secretary, the superintendent of schools and the business administrator board secretary file all the required documents with the executive county superintendent of schools. Can I have a first and a second, please?
So moved.
Go ahead and make the first motion. I have a couple of questions before I vote.
One sec. Yeah, I'll open it up, Peter. Mr. Mayo, did you move that?
I did. Kathy?
Okay, Kathy moved it. And who seconded?
Seconded.
Okay. Joe seconded. Now, any questions or comments?
I have a question, Steve. It's Pete Tefano.
Sure, Pete.
My question is directly at Mike. Mike, the budget that we have this year, if we didn't receive that extra $1 million from the state, we would be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't we?
Yes, sir. We would be cutting into existing programs and services by about $1 million.
Okay, and so would you agree that we're on track in next year's budget to pretty much have a disaster on our hands?
It's a bit of a strong word. I would say we are challenged next year because we do not have any bank cap available, and our excess surplus is on a trajectory downward. The state aid award is supposed to increase on our pathway to full funding, but I agree with what I believe your point is, that it is not enough.
I would like to make a motion before the vote. Is that possible?
I believe that we have to have this budget addressed because this is on the table right now. You can only have one motion on the floor at once.
Okay, I'll make my motion now.
Thank you.
Steve, if I may, this
Andy,
again.
you have a question? I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I have.
Andy, I'm sorry, but if I can, I just want to remind anyone that this presentation for the budget is on the district website. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, everyone. First of all, I want to commend the district administration for putting together what I think is an extremely complicated and challenging budget together. I do have a few questions on some of the slides that we saw. There was a statement, or there's a bullet on page 8 of the presentation that said limited expansion of the curriculum and staffing. I'm not sure what exactly the limited expansion is. Second question is increase in revenues through pass through to parents and community. What exactly are we passing through to the parents and the community that's increasing our revenues? In Mike's presentation, he said that Aetna came up with the best policy in terms of price. That's the case. How come we have not engaged Aetna in the past? The third question is that with all the capital improvements, not the third, fourth question is, with all the capital improvements that we're talking about, are we still OSHA compliant to make sure that our children are safe? The last question is the 2.79% administration cost. Is that comparable to other similar type of school districts? 5 questions in total.
You want to read the first one again, because I think you have some trouble remembering 5 questions. Well, let's do it one at a time.
I'm sorry about that. The first question was, there was a bullet on the page number 8 in the presentation that said limited expansion of curriculum and staffing.
Yes. And Mr. Pelori, this is Mike speaking. We have 13 new positions remaining in the budget. They are all teaching staff positions and bus driving positions. There are no administrative positions being added to the budget. These are for new classrooms, for trailers, for expansions at the school, and to reduce class sizes. Dr. Alvik, you want to comment any further on that?
We're not adding any other staff members. So the reason it's a limited expansion of staffing is we were looking at what was actually needed to make sure that we have the teachers in front of students. The limited expansion of curriculum is just to include the curriculum documents that must be kept updated based on CUSAC and based on the state requirements and laws.
Thank you very much. The increase in revenues as a pass through to the parents and community is the second question.
Dr. Alvik, you want me to take that?
Please.
We're proposing to increase the fees for Falcon Care and early childhood enrichment programs by 10%. I remind the board members that when we started these 2 programs, we based our fee structure at 10% below what the program run by BASC was charging at the time. We are 4 years later now, and because of inflation, we feel the need to raise our prices 10% to be solvent in those funds, and also which just brings the price back to where it was with BASC 4 years ago. We are also slightly increasing the iPad insurance to keep up with the costs associated with the iPad deployment and the renewal program that is to come. And we are looking at advertising aggressively so that parents don't bear the burden of these additional fees. We are looking at advertising on busing, advertising on grounds. I believe that is the scope of the parent fees.
Steve, you have another question, Andy?
The Aetna, why are we tapping into Aetna this time? We're comparing these in the past. I know it's probably water on the bridge, but I just want to find out why we haven't gone to Aetna if they're giving such a reasonable price last years.
Mr. Chair, I'll take that question if you wish.
Yes.
We've gotten competitive quotes from not only Aetna, but also AmeriHealth and other carriers in order to present our current provider, Horizon, with other marketplace quotes. Some years AmeriHealth was under, some years Aetna was under, and we found much cooperation from Horizon once they saw these competitive marketplace quotes by reducing their proposal in line with the other carriers. This year, however, is unique because, as I said before, Mr. Pelori, they dug in at 6.5%, and that was unaffordable unless if the board wanted to go ahead and cut existing programs and services. So that's why we did it this year as opposed to previous, because we had much more cooperation from Horizon. They have stopped cooperating.
Thank you, Ms. Gorski, for clarifying that. The other one is, I'm assuming this may not be something that you can answer, but I want to make sure that our schools and all facilities are OSHA compliant, which is a federal regulation that we provide safe facilities to our staff and children. But that's something that I would like to get an answer at the next board meeting. And
I can answer that now, Mr. Pelori. The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
We have an asbestos plan here called Adhera plan. And we have been always in abidance with that. We are in compliance with OSHA. And we are removing some lead paint from Barclay Brook School. Our schools are safe.
Okay, thank you. The 2.79 administrative costs, I think you showed a slide that showed that it's within line. I'm assuming just you want to make a statement on that. How does it compare?
Our administrative costs are extremely attractive. If you refer to the taxpayer guide educational spending, the state has already done the legwork comparing school districts by category. Monroe is in a category of K-12, 3,600 students plus, and our administrative costs compare much more admirably than our colleagues in that category. We have eliminated many administrative positions here that we have never refilled, including directors, assistant superintendents, and more.
Thank you very much. Just to conclude my questioning, I agree with my colleague Tofano in terms of what it's going to be for the next year. I know we haven't touched any elimination of transportation in this cycle, but I'm certainly concerned with that for our residents, especially those who live beyond the 2 mile, within the 2 mile radius. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Steve?
Ken? Sure.
Sir, I have a question for Mr. Gorski quickly, if I may. Mr. Gorski, and I'm sorry that I don't know this question, but I was reading through the material, and I just have a question on the reserve fund and what this budget does to help replenish that. And I know that we've used that fund in the past for some very important projects, for things like roof replacements, the vestibule security upgrades, and things like that. And I just wanted to just get from you what how much replenishment we're going to have to that fund.
Okay, Mr. Chirel, I assume you're referring to the Capital Reserve Fund, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Capital Reserve Fund currently has a balance of about $750,000. It is reserved for projects in the district's long-range facility plan. The projects that are being proposed in this year's budget are going to be in the long-range facility plan, or it will be as amended, therefore qualifies for a transfer from the Capital Reserve Fund. I'm recommending a transfer of $180,000, which would bring down the reserve to about $500,000. It is, I would like to see that balance increase for the same reason that our excess surplus calculation is on a trajectory downward. the capital reserve account is in the same boat. We have very limited revenues coming into the district, and they are not keeping pace with the spending for new enrollment requirements, special education requirements, and labor requirements. Therefore, it is very challenging to transfer any remaining money into capital reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. And I appreciate your answer. And I just want to just reiterate to the board and remind the board the importance of this account and this fund, and that we need to do everything that we possibly can to ensure that we have enough of a cushion in there so that the projects that we have, especially when they're emergency projects, and sometimes when we have a major leak in a roof or boiler replacement need, and or just something that's unforeseen happen, that we go to that fund for that, and without that replenishment, we can be in a lot of trouble. That's all I have.
I concur. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Any other board member, question or comment?
Yes, this is Michelle Arminio.
Okay, Ms. Arminio?
Okay, in the resolution, Mr. Ryback, it talks about the full spending authority. Can that just be explained a little bit? Does that go beyond the cap? Will that full spending authority go beyond the cap, or does that mean that what we're agreeing to tonight is what the authority entails?
I'm going to let Mr. Gorski answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Ryback. Thank you, Mrs. Arminio. Unused spending authority is synonymous with bank cap. That is the technical term from the Department of Education. The district had $1.4 million of bank cap from previous years available in the 2021 budget. It is desperately needed to avoid cutting existing programs and services and get this budget balance, as Dr. Alvick and I have presented before. There is no remaining unused spending authority or bank cap for next year. And Mrs. Arminio, if you want me to take this to its fidelity, that we are within the statutory requirements allowed by the Board of Education before we would have to go out to the public for a vote on the budget. We are using full spending authority, including unused spending authority from previous years.
Okay, so a follow-up question is, it does not provide for us to go beyond the 2% cap. Is that correct? That is when we would have to go out to the public for a vote?
I have a slide on this with the budget presentation, and it shows that the way the cap calculation works is it takes your preceding year's general fund tax levy, increases it by 2%, and then you can add to it any unused spending authority or bank cap from previous years that has not expired. That is where the $1.4 million is being added, taking our increase in the tax levy to approximately $3.4 million.
Right, but what my question is, we have no authority to go beyond that except for the unused cap, and we cannot increase that budget over the 2% cap.
We have no authority to go above what's being presented to you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gorski. Any other board member have a question or comment? Not hearing anybody. Before we vote, I'm going to open it up to the public, and I will read the questions or comments as they come in so everyone can hear it. Anyone from the public like to now address a question only, this time only, for the budget presentation?
We have to speak up, or we have to send the questions to you?
I see it's Prakash. He wants us. I can hear you fine, Prakash.
No, that's fine. I'm not taking anyone's account. President, please allow others to speak.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll come later. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public would like to pose a question or comment to the budget presentation? All right. I have a question here. Does this mean we will have no surplus moving forward in the 2021-2022 budget?
Mr. Chair, you would like me to answer?
The question was, Mr. Gorski, is this Does this mean there will be no surplus moving forward in the 2021-2022 budget?
It's very important to distinguish excess surplus from banked cap. Excess surplus is the district's ability to not spend every dollar that's within the budget or recognize revenues above what is in the budget, which creates savings from that year. That carries over to 2 years later for a budget revenue. Okay? That is something that we cannot determine what our excess surplus will be at this time, but we have an unhealthy trajectory from 6 million to 5 million to 3.4 million with that excess surplus calculation. The reason that it is declining is there simply is not enough water coming into the bathtub to meet what is going out in far as spending. We have very constricted ability to raise revenues through the cap, and our state aid has been quite flat. But our spending, due to the enrollment growth, labor costs, facility needs, special education costs, are heavier than our ability to meet it through our growth in revenues. That's why our excess surplus has been depleting. We hope that we can save money through this year's budget as we have in the past. We hope that our advertising revenue will exceed what we have in the budget in some other areas that may contribute to a turnaround in surplus. We'll have to wait and see. It is true, however, when it comes to unused spending authority or bank cap, that we have none left available for next year. That means whatever the 2% increase is on this year's general fund levy is all you have for next year.
Okay.
I have a question.
I don't know who's talking.
It's a student from this Monroe Middle School.
Okay, could you
If
identify
we-
yourself, please? Let's give your name.
I am Caitlin McGuire.
Oh, Caitlin McGuire. I see it there. Oh, hi, Caitlin.
Hi. If we get any severe, like if our budget cuts go down severely next year for 2022 above, will school programs be cut?
Okay, let me say that again. So Caitlin wants to know if the budget cuts go down any more, or I should say get any more for the 2021 school year. Will that impact a program? I think we did
Will it
address that.
impact any school programs?
Yes. Mr. Gorski?
Sure.
I think we addressed that already.
I'm comfortable speaking on behalf of the board when I say this, as well as the administrative staff. It is our goal never to cut existing programs and services. Next year is appearing to be more challenging than even this year was, because we will not have any bank cap available to use, and our revenues will be very restricted. However, if we don't add any additional programs and we're careful with our new spending agreements, then we hopefully will not have to cut anything that's existing, but we cannot make that promise at this time.
I think, Caitlin, what we're saying is that this year we're in a lot better shape than we thought initially. Next year, really, we just have to wait and see, but there could be cuts on the table. Okay, I have a question here from Michael Weinert, if I'm saying it correctly. Question is, I'm wondering how many of the board members have children that attend that before or after care service. If the district is already making $500,000 from the service, it seems like a lot to swallow for a small group of parents in our district that need before and or after care. I assume we need a comment. Dr. Alvick, did you get that?
So we've been running the before and after school care program for 4 years now, and we have not raised the fees on the program. So this is the first time we're raising the fees on that program, and we're actually raising them to the cost of what was being charged to families 4 years ago by the BASC program. So I don't see that it's going to impact families as much as you're thinking. We're not raising fees higher than what was charged 4 years ago by BASC. I think that answers the question.
Thank you. Now I have, am I saying it right?
Yeah, Arnav, I have a question. If we were to,
It's a little hard for me to hear you, Arnav.
I'm sorry.
Let's try it again.
If we were to cut,
You could, you could type it in as on the chat. So,
would I be able to type it in? I'm sorry, I can't see.
oh, you type your question in.
Yeah.
And now before you do that, I guess what we need to further response, Dr. Alva, can I ask you? This is from Michael Weinert again. Can I get a response to my question about how many board members use the services of the before and after care?
I don't know the answer to that question. I guess we'd have to ask the board members.
I don't think any. I don't think any.
I'm not aware of any, but I don't know. Can't speak for that.
Okay.
I don't use it.
Okay.
This can.
I know.
This is Jill. I don't use it.
Okay. I don't think any of the members.
I don't use it either. This is Pete.
Yeah, I don't use it. It's Adi.
It's Kathy. I don't use it either.
This is Andy. I think the question really is asked to see what the magnitude of increase is.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
We're just trying to respond now, and this is, really for me and the administration. I appreciate everybody's input on that, but if we're not using it, we're not using it. That was the question, and I think we answered it. Another one, moving on, I think it's from Mahat Kamuvarelli. I'm sorry, I know I'm mispronouncing it. I'm a student at Monroe Township Middle School. What type of technology cuts will be made in the middle school?
I don't have that exact list. No, every school will continue to get technology. We just didn't get the numbers that we were looking for. So there will be more technology at the middle school. There will be more access points at the middle school. We're not going to a one-to-one at the middle school. Every school will be getting more technology. It's just not the numbers that we would have hoped we were getting. I don't have the specific numbers of how many laptops or Chromebooks were being ordered.
Thank you.
Ryback? Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
To add on to what Dr. Alvick said, it's important for the public to understand there are no existing technology cuts to what is currently being enjoyed in the district. What Dr. Alvick was referring to, and what I also referred to, was we had to reduce what we had hoped to buy additionally next year for 2021, but we are still complementing our technology purchases with over $1 million of technology spending.
Thank you both for that. And now I believe Zala Bora would like to speak. Zala, are you there? Zala?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I love this virtual meeting. I have to say that now. Even when I can't be there, I can be there. My question to Mr. Gorski about, he mentioned a few times during this presentation about the advertisement revenue, and I believe I've heard it somewhere in the past. But what I wanted to know is that, will that be set into motion after this budget is approved, or has the district done any work so far? And do we have any sponsors yet for those advertisements on the ground, the buses? What is the status of that, and what kind of numbers are we looking at? Thank you.
Okay, let me try and repeat that. Basically, the question was about the advertisement revenue. Will that begin immediately if this budget is approved? Do we have anything now, and what kind of numbers are we looking at?
Mr. Ryback, I think Dr. Alvick would like to start that answer.
Okay.
So based on the Educational Advocacy Committee meeting that happened, I think it was in January, they wanted us to look at our current policies that we have for the advertising and accepting donations from corporate sponsorships. So on the agenda this evening are actually a couple of new policies in order for us to do that. So to answer your question, no, there is nothing in the works this second. We've been doing a lot of research of what it would look like and how we would manage it when we were going to do it. But there are policies on the agenda tonight for a reaffirmation of some current policies that we have, but also some new additional policies for the advertising. And those would have to go through 2 readings before they become policy, and then we'll be able to move forward with that project.
Thank you. I have another question from Roshni Shah. What percentage is Falcon Care increasing from this year?
10%.
10%. Okay, and now I have a couple of questions from Ram Raghunath. Ram, are you there? Ram?
Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sorry, I'd muted. So a couple of questions, right? Again, thanks for all the hard work from everyone, Mr. Gorski, everyone else on the budget. Questions I had, limit my time. One is I see 500,000 additional fees, right? That is now going to be passed on to parents. Some of it maybe from Falcon Care, some of it with the iPad fees and insurance, right? So I'm just worried, is this going to be impacting some of the lower income segments of our community, these fee increases?
Let me do one question at a time, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Mr. Ryback, I'm sorry, to Ram's questions.
I want to make sure the board members, did all the board members hear that question?
Sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
Currently, we have reductions for fees for students that participate in our free and reduced lunch program. So we're already very sensitive to the population of underprivileged, and we offer significant discounts for those folks. Was there another part to your question, Ram?
No, actually, I'll go to my second question, sensitive of time, right? So that leads to my second question is, we could have made the bold choice, right, to go over the cap as part of this budget. So my question is, why is it that we didn't make the choice and, right, rather than burdening parents here, and also with all these discussions about the budget, this thing, right, our excesses getting depleted, and we know with the coronavirus and stuff, 2020 revenues are definitely going to go down. Shouldn't we have been more precautious, taken more precaution, and probably try to exceed the cap and made that request here?
Okay, we'll let Mr. Gorski answer that one.
Thank you, Mr. Ryback. Ram is correct. If the district wanted to exceed our maximum spending authority, which Mrs. Arminio referred to before, our maximum spending authority, we could put a second question out to the public for costs that are not currently contained in our budget. We've had discussions on this. The last time the district tried this was for a full-day kindergarten program years ago, and it was defeated by an 8-to-2 ratio, if my memory serves me correctly. With the results from our last bond referenda, we heard clearly from the public that their taxes are a significant consideration and concern. So the likelihood of success on a second question, in our opinion, is low. And we would not want to risk student welfare with programs and services on a very low probability event. So instead, we cut administratively here and through other means in the budget, including insurance, with slight increases being passed to the parents.
Thank you. Is there another question, Ram?
Last one, I'll wrap up. In terms of Falcon Care, right, again, it has been very successful. Kudos to the district, right? And in fact, it is helping us this year with the budget. I think we had talked about this, right? Like revenue goals, right? Will the Board of Education be able to challenge the administration to take on an additional goal? I don't know whether it's doubling the Falcon Care revenue. I know the cost increase is obviously going to increase the revenue, but I understand that there is a lot more demand than supply, and there are opportunities that we are leaving money on the table.
I know Mr. Gorski would like to answer that.
Ram, I would take a look at some of the new revenue areas that we're looking at now. We're projecting to raise $500,000 of additional revenue. We have significant shared services throughout the district. And, it's going to be a challenge to meet those as we have taken on ourselves. The advertising revenue may not be as lucrative as first seems. For example, the first thing we looked at with that was advertising on the district's technology, putting pop-ups on the website, for example. The fee recognition for such an endeavor, which would irritate so many, is only $3,000 to $4,000 projected. So it's going to be a challenge to meet the revenue projections that we have in the budget. And but one of the biggest revenue goals that we have here is hopefully getting additional state aid. That is where a big movement of money could be made, as opposed to other proprietary generation. And by the way, if you look at our district compared to many others, we are way ahead of the curve when it comes to making additional money from outside of the box sources, like Falcon Care and ECE, for example.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public? Not hearing anyone, I will close the.
Prakash here. Can you hear me?
Sorry, who is this?
Prakash here. Prakash.
Sure. Sorry, sure, Prakash, I hear you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President. I have two questions. In emergency, if anything happens to Applegarth boiler, what is our plan because current budget does not include it? What is the plan? Anyway, I thank everyone for Gorski and the team for this presentation. So that's my first question. And second question, you guys may not like it, but I have to ask, what is the administrative cost in Middlesex County's school districts compared to ours? I would like to know that in the next meeting.
President, with regard to Applegarth School, it is one of our older schools and our only school that has not had a significant bond referendum capital upgrade over the years. It is a sister school in its design to Barclay Brook, but Barclay Brook was a beneficiary of a prior bond referendum upgrade to the boiler system, to HVAC systems, and other critical areas of the school. Applegarth has never had that. Applegarth would have benefited if the original high school referendum would have passed, because that high school project did include upgrades to Applegarth as well as other school facilities, but as you know, Prakash, it failed. So Applegarth has been left unimproved for a while. We spent about $350,000 on complete asbestos remediation and cosmetic facelifts throughout the school, but its main infrastructure is beyond its useful life. The plumbing, the windows, the roof, the HVAC system, the parking lot, I can go on and on. In the event that we had a system failure in the school that would not allow us to host education there, we have already made arrangements with the township to use the senior center until Applegarth was to come back up online.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prakash.
As far as administrative costs, Prakash, that was your second question. We have a slide on that, so I would direct you to our website. If you could look at the PowerPoint presentation, you have some attractive comparative information on our administrative costs. It's one of the shining best practice areas of this school district, our low administrative costs.
Okay. So bottom line for the public, what is the increase in the budget, and I know the slide says 2.7 cents or something like that for the $100,000 house value. What will be the increase? As a layman, I'm asking this question. You can say that. You can.
Mr. Prakash, you mean 100 or 300,000? I think the average.
Whatever.
The average home. I think it's about 300,000.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, please.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. The average home assessed in Monroe Township is approximately $318,000. The increase because of the school tax is $83.84 per average assessed home of $318,000 for the 2021 school year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I have a few more questions, and I know we're running. We're supposed to be 10 minutes, and we've gone over. So I really think we have to push on. I think what I'd like to do is just ask two more questions, and then we're going to move on. We have to vote on this. I'm sorry. I'm reading who comes in. So this is from Betty. I'm sorry, Carl Foreman. Will the number of temporary classroom trailers need to be added? If so, how many, and what will it? And I'm sorry. What will be the impact on the budget? And what will the additional trailers? And where will they be placed? Yes,
Mr. Ryback? For the 2021 budget, there are 4 temporary classroom trailer units being proposed at the Monroe Township High School for special education and other classroom expansion required by student enrollment. The price tag for that is about $500,000 for the 2021 school year. It is imperative to understand that the majority of that $500,000 cost is setup fees, electrical hookups, and soft costs with the installation. After that, it should drop significantly.
thank you. I have another one requesting that we send the PowerPoint presentation Word document regarding the numbers. I know we have it on the website, but if somebody wants it sent to them, I think we'll let them email, please, the district with their address and a name and address, and we'll get it to you or email it to you if you have an email address. Next I have is from Krishna Tekali. Krishna wants to thank Mr. Gorski and the administration for a job well done. Let me see, I have a question. Mrs. Skirby has a few questions. One, Mr. Pelori referenced cuts to student with 2 miles next year. Is he talking about busing cuts?
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
There are no busing cuts proposed in the 2021 budget.
Okay. I think that's it. That's all I see. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Skirby's asking about next year. She just wrote it now.
Mr. Ryback? It's impossible to anticipate the 21-22 budget at this time.
Okay, and the final question from the final. This is the final from.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm having. It's Chrissy Skirby. I'm having trouble.
Oh, okay. I hear you now.
My question was about what Mr. Pelori said. He referenced cuts coming to students within 2 miles next year. I'm asking, was Mr. Pelori referring to bus cuts?
Mr. Ryback? To be clear, there are no cuts.
I was asking
Mrs. Skirby, Mrs. Skirby, there are no cuts to any existing programs and services currently enjoyed in the 2021 budget. In the 2021.
That, but a board member made reference to next year. I wanted to know what he was referring to. That was about. And then my final comment is my final question is you discussed having $500,000 being passed on to the parents on top of the tax increase that we will see with going to a 2% cap, 10% increase to parents for using Falcon Care. If we went out above cap voters of Monroe Township, that $500,000 would have been shared across the entire community, not just a select few. And I think going forward, think about that. What you're doing is you're increasing costs for a small select few of the parents seeing a tax increase, where if you went out to vote on the budget going over the 2% cap, it would be spread across the entire community.
Mr. Ryback, we already talked about the probability of having a second question passed in this community and the taxpayers' inelasticity to additional taxes being passed through that way. The $500,000 was incorrectly stated that it's being passed to parents. That also includes advertising revenue and other revenue sources that don't touch parents. Other than the Falcon Care ECE 10% increase in fees, which again goes back to a 4-year level maintained by the Baskin Network. And by passing on some additional iPad insurance, there are no significant fees being passed to parents, and there are no programs and services being cut.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Mr.
not-
Ryback, Mr. Ryback,
Mrs. Skirby.
Dr. Alvick.
Oh, yes. go
Dr.
ahead.
Alvick. Mr. Gorski, can you also address the building use fees? Because that was part of that $500,000 that we were estimating to get, and the building use fees would not impact anyone in Monroe, correct?
Yes, Dr. Alvick, that is correct. We are revising the building use policy now, and the majority of the fee increase is going to be passed to non-Monroe users of our facilities. We are going to put the majority of the burden on the fee increases for the use of building on non-Monroe organizations looking to use our schools.
And the final question now, any other questions? I'd ask you to save them for the next public forum because it's on any topic. And this is from Betty Sabarino. What cuts, if any, will be made to special ed programs?
Mr. Ryback, I say again, there are no existing cuts to any existing programs and services enjoyed in the school district budget.
Okay. Any other questions? You can certainly bring it up at the next forum, but we went way over this one, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all the questions on the next one. We have to go for a vote on this. I'll ask Mr. Gorski for a roll call vote. This is a vote to approve the preliminary budget 2020-2021 school year.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Tufano, Mr. Tufano,
Mr. Tufano, is that a yes?
Yes.
thank you, sir. Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Nikotinsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback, Mr. Board President, motion to approve the tentative budget has passed unanimously. I thank all the board members for their participation in this challenging meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much also. We're going to have committee reports. Mr. Tufano, you said something about motion. Can I ask you to wait for other board business? If you still want to do something.
I would prefer to do it now after the budget talk, but if you want me to wait, I don't think it's an issue.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're open for committee reports. Any committee chair want to report?
Hi, Mr. Ryback. It's Rupa.
Hi.
I'm going to give our update from the policy committee.
Go ahead.
We have several policies that the policy committee reviewed this month. The Education Advocacy Committee had requested us to review several policies that will help the district generate revenue. We have 3 policies that we currently have in place, and we are moving those policies forward for reaffirmation tonight. The policy numbers and titles are 6160, grants from private sources, 6164, advertising on school buses, 7230, gifts, grants, and donations. We're also putting 2 additional potential revenue generating policies forward for first reading. It's policy number 6162, corporate sponsorship, 6163, advertising on school property. And then we have 1 additional policy that we're moving forward for first reading, policy number 4216, dress and grooming for support staff members. We currently have a policy in place for certificated staff, so this is just a parallel policy for our support staff. And in an effort to save time, I know we're trying to keep our agenda to board items. I do have an education piece, but I will save that for a future meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Siegel or board members? Okay, we can move on. Any other committee chair would like to report?
Mr.
Yeah, I don't know who's talking.
Hear you. I don't know.
Mr. Pelori?
Yeah, I'll go very quickly. The Education Advocacy Committee actually met on March 12th and discussed a bunch of items. The only thing that I would like to bring back to the community is the fact that we need to jump on that letter writing campaign. We requested the administration to put a letter together, be sent to various elected officials and legislators. There will be budget hearings. We heard that our district superintendent and the business administrator will be testifying on behalf of Monroe. So we are continuing to fight for additional funding even after the initial funding has been allocated. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Peluri from board members? Okay, any other committee chair would like to report?
David Paul Rutsky.
Sure. Rutsky, go ahead.
Buzznet, can you hear me?
Well, Mr. Rutsky has the floor as a committee chair. We're doing committee chairs right now.
Okay, no problem.
I simply was just going to say I'm not going to even give a finance report since the budget was the finance report, and just thank you all the hard work for Mr. Gorski and the administration on a job well done getting this budget to come in line without any cuts whatsoever. So that concludes my finance report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rutsky for finance? Any other committee chair? All right, not hearing or seeing anyone. We can move on now to the second public forum. I'd like to remind everyone that this was going to be limited to 10 minutes. We'll have a minute and a half for a question or comment. But I would like to, somebody wrote in something, Pradeep Mellam. Mr. Gorski, he'd like you to comment on the use of the word enjoying. He didn't agree with that. He condemns it because he said that you're not paying anything from his pocket to enjoy.
Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Use of the word enjoyment is that this district provides an immense amount of programs and services above adequacy. And I believe that we provide a quality product to the enjoyment of our students and parents. That's what I was referring to by that. And as such, it was to the point that there are no cuts to any of those programs or services currently being enjoyed through those programs.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Please state your name. You have a minute and a half.
Yes, hello.
Yes, could you just speak up a little more?
My name is Nadine Buzznet. I would like to interject. To see about. I would like to introduce a swim program with minimal impact on the school budget. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, no, I would like to, with the students are willing to work with the Board of Ed to be able to have a supplemental and introduce a swim program that will be able to help impact the school budget. Just wanted to see, how I would go about that in trying to.
Dr. Avik, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but if you send either Dr. Lehman or myself an email, then we can get in touch with you and find out what program you're talking about.
Let them know you have intentions of funding it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment that I really am enjoying this virtual environment. I just wanted to move forward. We open up Board of Education meeting to be held virtually in person. With two small children, kind of difficult to be away.
Roshni, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. It's hard for me. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but it's hard for me to understand what you're saying because you're breaking up. I think you said something positive about the way the meeting is being conducted today, virtual. Okay. Thank you for that.
And I wanted to see if we could do that moving forward.
We could certainly discuss it.
We may be doing it for a while until the governor lets us start school again.
Agreed. But if we could continue with in person, great.
I just want to say thank you for the comment. It's during these times we really need to work together and understand that things are changing daily, and we still want to get the job done, but how we deliver the message may have to change. But the important thing is that the message gets delivered and the public gets a chance to speak as well. All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Prakash, can you hear me?
Kosh?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a lot of background noise, so I can hear you.
I was at the DGT meeting, and you have plan A, B, and C, which are going on. And I see that we have a lot of enrollment unhoused students going to be in the high school. So I request that just having 6 classrooms for high school and 4 for special education will not be sufficient. I request that for the high school, into the plan, please consider at least 25 classrooms, because I have the numbers here. We'll be having more than 1,100 unhoused students in high school but in the next 5 years. So that is the request.
Okay. Thank you for that comment.
Hello?
Yes, could you state your name?
Hi, my name is Robert Howell.
Hi, Robert.
A woman a little while ago, her name was Nadine, and she was asking about the swim program. Now, she wasn't able to call in on the app itself. She's trying to do it remotely. However, her intentions was to let you know that she would like to be a donator to privately fund the swim program for Monroe High School, and how to go about talking to the board or whomever may need to be talked to in order to get that information to you, so that it can be decided whether or not her funds would be able to do that, with supplementary funds from fundraising and things like that once it's been established.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Alvick asked her to just email her the information. Her email is very accessible. It's on the website, and she will
It sounded like
contact
she
her.
didn't understand what she was trying to ask, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, if she just emails her, she'll get all the information, and we'll respond to her.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Anyone else
I have
from the
something,
public?
Steve. It's Chrissy Skirby.
Hi.
Hi. I had a question for Mr. Pluri's committee. He mentioned again about a letter writing campaign. I know it was discussed a few meetings back about having a letter that residents could send to the state. Where does that stand? Because we keep talking about doing it, but nothing is being done.
I can take it, Steve. So the committee looked at a couple of draft letters the other day on Thursday evening, but with everything that just happened the last few days and trying to get our schools up and running with the remote learning today, we have not had a chance to do that. So we will work on that and try to get those letters out as quickly as possible. But that was what came out of the committee last week.
And just one other comment about the Falcon Care. I think it's very inconsiderate to say that it's not a big increase. A 10% increase to those families using Falcon Care is a lot to ask. You want to go back and talk about BASC 4 years ago, our taxes have gone up in Monroe significantly in the last 4 years. So adding another 10% increase for a service in the school district is a lot of money to ask for parents. And I just think that you need to be careful and considerate of what parents and residents are going through with the constant increase of taxes. A 10% increase is a lot. And I think the district may see a decrease in the program because there are other after-school programs popping up in Monroe, and you may actually lose business to that. It's something
Time's
to
up.
consider as well.
Okay.
Sorry, the
Thank
timer
you.
went off.
Yes, thank you. All right, I have to conclude the public forum now, and we're going to move on to the assistant superintendent's report. Dr. Lehman.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to make it brief because I know we have a lot going on. I just wanted to start off by thanking all of the teachers, staff, support staff, all the administrative team for getting everything up and running. We basically turned a program that's brick and mortar, face to face, into a remote learning program. We did that in probably 3 or 4 days. And it's an unprecedented situation we're in. There's going to be growing pains, things that we'll have to ebb and flow and tweak as we go through. When this is over is yet to be determined, but we are working night and day to make this program as effective as we can. And if you have any concerns or questions, your starting point is your child's teacher. They work with the administrators, and we have the kind of the umbrella view and everything else going on here. So just a kudos to the parents. We know it's an extremely challenging situation. I have 2 students of my own at home, and we're all learning the new routines that involve educating children at home while we're currently working. Just thank you to everyone involved, and we will get through this. There will be an end.
Thank you, Dr. Lehman. We now have the superintendent's report and recommendation. Albert?
Okay, so the only announcement that I'd like to make is on the agenda this evening is Mr. Scott Madriperla's resolution for retirement as of September 1st. I just want to thank Mr. Madriperla for all that he's done for our district for the last 32 years. He will definitely be one of our administrators that will be missed. With that, I would recommend that the board approve the attached personnel items A through S through consent roll call.
Any?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Any
Second.
questions, Dr. Albert?
Mr. Ryback, that was motion moved by Mrs. Kolpanovich, seconded by Mrs. DeMayo,
Okay,
correct?
We can go through the vote. Yes.
Thank you.
We can go right to the full vote.
Mr. Tufano,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback,
Yes.
Ms. Siegel,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mr. Nikitinsky, Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanovich. Mr. Board President, personnel items A through S has passed unanimously.
Okay, and it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following board action items by roll call, items A through G.
Do I have a
So
move on?
moved.
Okay, a second.
Second.
All right, so that was Kalpanovich moved it, and was it Mr. Rutsky that seconded?
Tufano.
Mr. Tufano.
Okay. Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanovich,
Yes.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mr. Tufano,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mr. Nikitinsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Board President, board action items A through G has passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Alvick. I think now we're ready for Mr. Gorsuch's business administrator.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to notify the staff and community that the Monroe Township Board of Education Business Office has taken precautionary measures in advance to be able to run payroll virtually. So we will be able to commence payroll even though there are no staff physically being housed in the building, which is a first for us. Further, I have ensured with the help of Mr. George Lang and Mr. Ellen Weinberg from the Monroe Township Municipality, who were kind enough to wire transfer the tax check to the district in the last day, that we have received $7 million of the March tax check, and we are solvent now for 2 months with cash. And the township has made sure to state that they are there to backstop us, no matter anything, to promote our financial liquidity here. So rest assured that payroll will continue, the accounts payable function is continuing, and we are solvent, and we have enough cash resources to continue. So, Mr. Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through G be approved by consent roll call.
So moved. Pelori.
Second.
Pelori approved it, and who seconded it? Mr. Tufano?
Tufano.
Okay, so roll call vote.
Mr. Tufano,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes, but recuse myself on E for travel expense resolution.
Recuse on E. So noted. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes.
And Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through G is passed. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, my president's report, something I want to read that I prepared that I think is very pertinent for today. I just wanted to know how difficult a time this is for everyone, and thank Dr. Alvick, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Gorski, or his whole administrative team, my fellow BOE members, and everyone in the district, including parents and students, teachers, paras, everyone, all our employees, for all their efforts in dealing with our ever-changing situation. Most importantly, let's follow the suggestions of the experts, stay safe, continue to work together, and be kind to each other. That ends my report. Is there any other board business? I think Mr. Tufano, am I correct?
Yes, Steve.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. I hereby make a motion. Township Board of Education request that Mayor Tamburo immediately halt all current and future construction. The admission of our business administrator, we are very close to a financial crisis. Any new enrollment will further destroy us financially. It is.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tufano, you cut out. I can't hear you. I heard financially, that was the last word.
Okay. It is in the best interest of our current students, and it is the board's responsibility to protect them from any cuts to current programs they are currently enrolled in.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Is that Mr. Nicotinsky?
No, it's Michelle Arminio.
Michelle, you moving it? Someone to move it.
So moved.
Mr. Tufano moved it.
Oh, Mr. Tufano, okay, and Mrs. Arminio seconded. Any comments or discussion?
Steve, I have a comment.
Sure, Ken.
Thank you. I just want to say that I support this. Our residents are under a tremendous amount of strain when it comes to not only taxes but infrastructure, getting around town, and things like that. The development has to stop. If we're willing to write letters and make motions to the state for certain things, and to back certain things, and to back truck bans and things like that, we should also make a move to ask that we get a breather, that we're able to, the board is able to catch its breath, and that more development isn't put through. I mean, from what we heard at Buildings and Grounds last week, that there are another almost 1,000 homes that are about to go through the planning board. And I think that we need to take a stand and at least adopt a letter expressing our dismay at what's going on. Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Michelle Arminio.
Sure, Michelle, go ahead.
I think what we witnessed tonight and what we've witnessed in the last several years is a tipping point for our community, our whole community, our seniors, our parents, our students. This has been coming a long time coming. We have been afraid as a board to approach the township council, who is fully responsible for the development and the increased enrollment. And the only thing we can do is to keep pushing our district infrastructure and our instructional and taxing our instructional staff. And it's just not fair to the children, to the students, when we have no control over the construction, the poor planning that results in the construction overload. And it's time that we actually, we have no other choice. We really need to go forward with this and get some results, not just have this request, but we need to push for results. We've gone to the state for over 20 years. It hasn't worked. We have to go to the source of the construction approvals, and all these are the planning board, the zoning board, and the township council. We have to go to the source, and they have to supply us with some relief from this. The profits are going to the developers, and the bills and the cost are coming to Monroe residents.
Okay, thank you. I just want to, just for the sake of moving it along, Stefan, I have a question. Was it, maybe I didn't hear enough, was it to ask them to stop any future development or stop the current development?
Current and future until we are, out of this crisis. Because after this Corona situation we're in, I think there's going to be a lot of people out of work, and we can't foot. Well, I'm sure the taxpayers cannot foot another increase on anything.
My question here, and I don't think I'm going to answer, is the legality of asking them to stop. I don't think it's possible for them to put a freeze on current development. I think that's a legal issue.
The mayor can issue a moratorium. That's what he can do. In an emergency situation, which we are in. It's a financial crisis. It's not to be home after 8 o'clock. He could stop the schools from being flooded.
I'm not taking away from what you're saying because I have my own problems with all the development over many years that I've been complaining about. But
so let's do something about it.
I'm not sure if it's legal, Mr. Tufano. So that's something I would like to.
Let's make the motion and let the lawyers tell us it's not legal.
Okay, that's fine with me. Go to a vote.
Roll call, Mr. Peluri.
Discussion-wise, I got a couple of questions.
Okay, I didn't hear you, Andy. I apologize.
That's okay. We had a building grounds and transportation meeting last week, and this motion was not brought up. And quite honestly, I support it in the sense that right now, seeing what's going on in the Board of Ed and everything else in terms of the hardship we're facing, it is a very difficult situation. And I think it does make sense for them to do that. But Steve, I do agree, and we brought it up in the past at a couple of council meetings and the planning board meeting. People have asked the question if we could do that, and it was dismissed as it's not legal for us to something that we already permitted. So, I mean, even if I support it, I think it's not going to be of much use. Pete, I want to support the thought process and what we're trying to achieve here, but I'm not so sure how far this is going to go.
Well, let me say, I think that was similar to my question, and what Mr. Tufano said is if we support it and it doesn't go any further because it's illegal, well, that's as far as it'll go because we don't have the authority to.
Steve, I'd like to say something. The mayor and the township just suggested, or actually requested, that residents come forward and give them ideas on what they could do for the town. Well, I think that being that we are the Board of Education, we should have a say in that. We're put here by the taxpayers to protect them. We're put here to protect the students. And if we do not tell the mayor how we feel and what he should do to stop the problem, it is highly irresponsible of all of us.
Okay. Any other board member before we vote? I think
my only other question, Steve, is that is it possible for us to table this and get Mary Smith to look at it and then advise, or I'm only asking a question. It doesn't mean that I'm suggesting it. That's better because that's what we typically do with the resolutions, rather than all of a sudden. So, I can come up with a resolution all of a sudden and have the board vote on it, but that's not the process typically we follow, right?
Well, you can, if I'm not mistaken, you can make a motion to table it pending inquiring whether it's legal for the town to even do this from Mary, and then we could vote on it at the next meeting if that's okay.
Steve, I have to interject here. I mean, there is no law saying that we can't ask. Okay, if we ask, there's nothing unlawful about that. If the mayor tells us no, then the residents and the students know where he stands on protecting them and the cuts that need to be made to the district next year because of his actions. So there is no law stopping us from making this motion.
Your motion again.
If the motion is made and it doesn't pass, then we have to go a little bit higher than the mayor because obviously there's laws in place to protect people who don't care about the community. That's the bottom line.
I think we may have to go higher anyway, but could you just read your motion again, Mr. Tufano. I appreciate it.
I hereby make a motion that the Monroe Township Board of Education request that Mayor Tamboro immediately halt all current and future construction. It is at the admission of our business administrator that we are very close to a financial crisis. Any new enrollment will further destroy us financially. It is in the best interest of our current students and the board's responsibility to protect them from cuts.
There's no other questions. I guess we can go through a vote.
Okay, this is Mr. Tufano's motion, seconded by Mrs. Arminio to halt all current and future construction.
To request the hold, I believe.
Request to halt.
Request,
Mr.
yeah.
Mr. Pelori,
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio,
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo, Mrs. DeMayo,
Sorry, it was muted. Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Tufano,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback. Mr. Board President, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Any other board member or other Board of Education business?
This is Jill.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the administration, the teachers, and the support staff for all the work they've put in this past week in getting this school ready for the online learning. I know it was not an easy task, and I know it took a lot of time and energy, and they've done a very good job, and I just wanted to thank them. And I also want to say congratulations to Mr. Madriperla on his retirement. I hope he has a wonderful retirement.
Thank you. I know we're all in agreement with that. He certainly deserves it and a wonderful retirement.
Steve?
Okay.
Who's speaking?
Steve, it's Pete. Can I say something else, please?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'd like to clear up something that happened at last month's meeting. I made a motion, and Mr. Polari didn't agree with what was in the motion per se. And I said to him, if you were at the meeting, you'd know what meeting. I was in no way admonishing Mr. Polari for missing a meeting. We all meetings. What I meant was, if he was present for that meeting, he would have heard what was said at the meeting. Not that he doesn't show up or he's not responsible. So very clear to the public that that wasn't my intention.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Is that Ken?
I just have a couple of quick things. I just want to wish Mr. Madriperla well. I'm sad to see him go, and he served us very well. So I just want to thank him for his service. I also want to thank our teachers and our administrators and our parents for this has been a very trying time, and I know it hasn't been easy. And I just want to thank them for having it go as smoothly as it seems to be going right now. If they have any tips for me getting my kids up on time to get on the computer, that would be helpful. I had to almost break into their rooms to get them to log on this morning. The last thing that I have is just that, are we doing anything to curtail the use of our fields in light of the coronavirus? Because I've heard some information about the high school cage fields, those kind of things, the high school fields and the cages being used.
Let Dr.
We haven't instituted anything, but that's something that I just heard about from Pete Hero this afternoon too. So it's something we definitely have to look at, because the whole idea is to practice social distancing and not have too many people in one area. So we're going to have to monitor that. Right now, we don't have any staff members in our buildings unless it's an emergency or it's one of the essential things that we have to do. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, but Pete did bring that to my attention today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Good point. Anyone else?
Steve, this is Andy. Is it possible, Dr. Alvick, not to accept his retirement and have him continue to work?
Talk about Umbrella.
Yes, I hear a lot of good things about him all the time, and he's really admirable when he stepped up when we needed him to step up. So thank you very much for that. And I also echo the sentiments of my colleagues. It has been extremely tiring and trying time last week in terms of making sure that the people's expectations are met in terms of shutting the school down and everything else. Dr. Alvix, personally, I'm very thankful to you for taking the time to meet with parents from time to time and explain the process to them as well. Everybody is concerned about their safety. Everybody is concerned about their well-being. So the last point I want to make is that there's a whole slew of assembly bills that have made their way through the assembly, and they're on the Senate floor right now for approvals, especially for the COVID-19. There may be some funding that's going to be allocated for school district like ours. And I passed that information to the Education Advocacy Committee members, and we certainly want to make sure that we track those and see if there's any merit for us applying that. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I don't have a right to speak during other board business, but I did want to compliment Andy on that statement. And we are, in fact, tracking all costs related to the COVID-19 matter.
excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board member?
Yes, this is Michelle Arminio.
Yes, Michelle.
I would just like to, again, thank the staff and the district employees for doing such a good job and keeping our schools safe. But I would like to expand my wishes to the full community. Stay safe and stay strong, and also let's keep each other in mind when we are out and about. So what we do for ourselves to protect ourselves also helps to stem the virus from going further. So I wish everybody a safe and good time of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Paul Rutsky, if I may.
Absolutely, Mr. Rutsky, all yours.
So I just want to say, bring notice to the great job and the seamless job that was today's first day of actual classes, at least for the high school. My son's perspective, a normal day of school. He just got to do it here at home. It went off, not a problem, not a glitch. Teachers, other students participating, classwork, homework, what have you. Really says a lot about our district and how well organized everybody got for this and pulled off. So hopefully we continue that out for the next however long we're under this quarantine, so to speak. Great start today. I just wanted to make note of that.
And Mr. Rutsky, you're absolutely right. And it's a team effort, starting central administration, principals, assistant principals, teachers, supervisors. It's a whole team effort and requires that many people to do it. And it's funny, today I had a brief conversation with Beth Ann Augsbach, president of the MTEA, telling her what a wonderful job these teachers are doing, because I've been hearing that from people, just telling me what a great job they're doing and how their work is making, the work of working with the kids at home that much easier.
It's really something. I can tell you, not every district has that luxury or ability with the one-to-one computers that we have, and so it needs to be recognized and appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the board?
Mr. Ryback, it's Ruth. I'd like
Sure.
to say something too.
Absolutely.
I do want to thank Mr. Gorski and the finance department and all the administration for a wonderful job on the budget. I know it's a lot of work that goes into this, so I do appreciate all that you all do to make this budget work. And I do also want to thank Dr. Alvik, Dr. Lehman, Mr. Gorski, and the entire administration for a phenomenal job that they've done these last couple of days. I know it's very, very trying and uncharted waters that we're all in, but it's an amazing job that the teachers and the entire staff has done to pull everything together and to make this smooth. I too watched my children today, and everyone was in different rooms doing what they had to do, and they did follow the bell schedule and move from room to room. So I do appreciate everything that everyone's done, and please share my wishes along with all the teachers, supervisors, principals, everyone else in the district, because it's phenomenal and we truly are a team. Thank you.
We are.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? I'll just say also that it's a team effort. I know how hard Mike Gorski and his staff and Dr. Alvick and the administrative team and the teachers have been working just for the the online instruction, but also in dealing with this coronavirus conundrum that we have. And I'll just emphasize, we need to join hands and work together and be reasonable with each other and to get through this. And I know we will. We're a real team. Also, if anyone was not able to get their question in today, anyone from the public, I'll encourage you to email question to either myself or Dr. Alvick and we'll get an answer to you as soon as we can. All right, the next scheduled Board of Ed meeting is April 27th. I don't know if it'll be virtual or back at the high school. The information will be upcoming. Now I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second, Michelle Arminio, second.
Ken, did you?
Chiarella and Mrs. Arminio.
Yes, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recusals? Abstentions? All right, motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Steve, hurry up and get home. You're breaking the law.
Okay.
And then everybody.
I'll let you pick me up, Pete.
Breaker. Maverick.